Well, I'm in his old stomping grounds here in Southern California. Donnie McSween, the first captain in Griffins franchise history, played some hockey here in Southern California, not far from where I'm at. We'll talk about that in a moment. Donnie, as we mentioned, first captain of this franchise all the way back in 1996. Boy, how exciting was it for you to join a franchise that would go on and sell out every game for the next couple of years? Of course, you played here for the 1 year and a couple of games the following season. But, man, great memories, no doubt, that we'll share here for the next 15, 20 minutes.
Well, Bob, you realize that back then, when I transitioned out, I was a little disappointed that the NHL thing didn't work out for me. I had the injuries, and it looked like I was going to be out of hockey, and the opportunity came with the Griffins. And then, right from day one, it didn't feel like I had taken a step down into the minors. I felt like I was still in an NHL city with, being in Grand Rapids and playing in that building, and with all the attention and all the hockey people that were just so excited for hockey to be in Grand Rapids. It just didn't feel like I was in the AHL. It felt like I was still in the NHL, at least when I was in Grand Rapids. Of course, when we played on the road, then maybe you're playing in front of 2,300 people or whatever else. Then it feels like you're in the minors, but not those 41 games at the Van Andel. Not at all.
And how special! I mean, you come to this phenomenal city with this brand new arena, with a fan base of 7,000 season ticket holders. They had to cut it off at that, by the way, as you probably well know, for a 10,834 seat arena. And then you're reuniting with your college teammate Dan Cole. You go on and have a pretty solid season when it was all said and done, winning 40 games.
Yeah, we had a really good year. We got off to a little slow of a start, and that's to be expected. And then the team had some key pickups along the way, which really helped. Dan Cole being one of those guys, and then we went off and got in a pretty good roll there in the winter months, January, February, and put ourselves in position in the playoffs. And I don't think the first place team at the time was the Solar Bears. That's who we ended up playing. And I don't think they really wanted to play us. They did end up beating us in that 5-game series, best of 5. But we gave them a good run, and we really did have a very good first year. And as you said, there was just so much excitement and so many memories. And boy, it was very special to be a part of.
We mentioned Dan Cole. You got to be excited about him reviving the Michigan State Spartan hockey program as their head coach. Just so you know, and well, actually, you probably do know, I'm a Michigan guy. Not too often am I ever going to interview a pair of Spartans in 1 year, let alone in a couple of weeks. But the fact that you guys are such great guys, I mean, I'll bend a little bit in this case.
Well, it's a lot of the guys and Michigan's got a great program. Red Berenson had a great program for years, and they've struggled a little bit here lately. We'll see how they do this year. But Dan is really reviving, that program in East Lansing, and we're so, as an alumni, proud of Michigan State history and heritage. I'm so grateful that that he's there, and he is really doing great things, and he's getting the right people involved. He's doing a great job with recruiting, and he's got some local guys from Michigan, a few from Grand Rapids that are shoot in to start coming into the program within a couple of years, and we just look for big things to happen in East Lansing. I think the green and white are back.
Well, he's settled now, not too far from Grand Rapids. You're among a handful of guys that are settling right in Grand Rapids. You think about yourself and Travis Richards and Dave Van Drunen, Corey Carlander's another. Ryan Knox didn't play a ton, but of course Travis Richards, Matt Ruckte, a big name, no doubt. So it's a pretty appealing spot, as we all know.
Oh yeah, my wife and I, when we were here, we bought a house. Because we just like the area, and it wasn't too far from Lansing, where her family's from, not too far from Detroit, where my family's from, and we figured it would be a transition house. We'd end up, playing hockey for a few years. It ended up only being one in a little bit and some change, but we figured it was a transition house. Here which is where I'm at right now, here in Cascade, and we were gonna move back to the east side of the state, and that's that's where our family was. But as it turned out, I got a really nice opportunity to stay in Grand Rapids and work. And my wife was just like, well, let's give it a go for a year. Let's try it out and see how things go. This Forest Hills School District is rated, right up there at the top of the state. And Matt's into, he was in first grade, going into second grade. Trevor was in preschool. He was going into kindergarten. And of course we had Rachel coming up. So we had kids lined up to go into school. And we just, things took off from a work standpoint. And then we grew to love, the city of Grand Rapids. It's a conservative area. So good to raise kids in, such a family friendly atmosphere, and, great corporate base, with people who are looking to give back to the community. And then from a location standpoint, 2.5 hours we're in Chicago, 2 hours we're in Traverse City, an hour to Lansing, 2 hours. We're really in a good spot. We can go wherever we want. And, and we go to Grand Haven and watch the sunset. It takes us 35 minutes, to get to Grand Haven and sit out at Noto's and watch the sunset, so it's just a beautiful area to be. And this is our home. I'm a Detroiter, but Grand Rapids is my home.
Your kids are now having kids, at least Matt anyway. You're a grandpa 2 times over, huh?
Yeah. That's sad for me. I look in the mirror, and obviously you can see I've lost a lot of my hair since my Griffin days. And it's funny how life just, seems to click by, and all of a sudden it's 25 years. And, the kids are grown up, and they're all married. They're all out of school, obviously, and they all have their own houses, and now they're having kids, and we've got a house, and there's nobody living in it anymore except the wife and I and the dog. And but it makes for great, homecomings for everybody to come over. Maybe not so much, this year with the COVID thing, but usually Thanksgiving's a big deal. Here we usually have 25 people, in the house, and so yeah, that idea of just life perpetuates, and it's you see the kids having success, and I coached them when they were younger, and I've got a grandson and a granddaughter. I'm sure I'll have a few more grandkids, and I foresee myself strapping the skates on again, and having a whistle around my neck, and being back at Patterson Ice Rink, or at Southside, or Belknap, Griff's Ice House, whatever. I'll be in the rinks again.
Yeah, that would be a good thing, because Don McSween, your contributions to the game as a player and as a coach with your boys. Gosh, I remember, Trevor and Matt. You spent so much time with them. Awfully good hockey players once upon a time. Speaking of great hockey players, there were plenty of them in that inaugural Griffins season. One of the striking things to me about that team is, that back in the good old days of hockey, at least in my estimation, you got Matt Ruckte on that team with 364 penalty minutes. Darcy Simon, 300 and whatever number of penalty minutes. Bruce Ramsey, over 300 penalty minutes. You don't see anybody with those numbers anymore, let alone 3 guys on one team. Game has changed, hasn't it?
Well, it has. Well, we had a pretty physical squad. Davey Allison was our head coach, and Bob was our GM, and he went out and he got some bigger players there. When we started the season, we were pretty small. We had Darcy, but we didn't have Hammer. We didn't have Rex. We didn't have Jamie Linden. There was a few other guys, that we ended up picking up that really helped our team. And it wasn't like we wanted to go out and fight all the time, but that was hockey back then. That was, hockey in the 90s and the 80s. If you think back, and you think about the Red Wings, they were a high scoring team, but there was always a couple fights, and that was the case at the Van Andel those first few years. Good scoring teams. Michel Picard, could easily score a hat trick, and Rammer
46
and Ruck,
goals that year.
Oh, he had a ton.
101 points. Imagine that, huh?
Oh man, yeah. Well, he had such great hands.
Yeah,
such great hands, and so and such. It wasn't, he didn't have the big clapper. It was he had wrists that were rock solid, man. He would let go a wrist shot. That thing was just, it was like a Nolan Ryan fastball.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, Donnie, speaking of wrist, and fighting, you of course once upon a time you had your share of scraps. Unfortunately, like you said, you're coming to Grand Rapids in 96, 97. The enthusiasm with that was tempered somewhat because you had finally made it to the National Hockey League after 6 really good years in the minor pro ranks, most of it with Rochester, defenseman of the year there for 5 straight years, all-star, et cetera, 60-point seasons as a defenseman. If you finally get that chance with Anaheim and then a fight with Keith Tkachuk in Winnipeg, which we'll show the video. I don't have the video of the actual fight, but the aftermath of it. SportsCenter covered it. It pretty much ended your hopes of what would have been likely another 10, 12 years playing in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, it was a cruel joke, but that's the way sports are. It's high risk, high reward, and for me it was unfortunate the way it happened, but it wasn't like I was a big time fighter, but I did get, as we were just talking about, even the scorers, even the playmakers would get in the odd fight. And I used to get in 4 or 5, 6 fights a year sometimes. And, but then, that's just the way it, freak luck there as far as bad luck in that case, where Tkachuk was trying to, turn over while I had him on the ice and, threw a punch just when he was kind of kicking his foot, and it took my wrist almost took it right in half. But that's part of it. My hockey career was not as good as it could have been. But you know what? It could have been a lot worse. And there's guys that never got the opportunity to even play. And at least I got up for a little bit, and I had my dream going for a while. And as I said, life's been very kind to me ever since, in the fact that when I came out of Anaheim I ended up with that opportunity in Grand Rapids, it was a godsend because I got to play that 1 year in Grand Rapids, which was great. But these 23 years that have preceded that have been terrific because of the fact that I got involved with a great company in Kendall Electric, and I got to establish roots in a great community, and I was able to raise my kids, in a terrific place. And
you get a sense of the character of Don McSween just listening to you talk right now. I mean, you're such a leader. All about character. And your quote, I think, the next day in the paper in Anaheim, in the LA Times, that area, Southern California, and throughout hockey for that matter, was I was so happy to hear we won the game. I mean, here you are, with the prospects of dealing with major surgery, potentially career-ending surgery, and you were more focused on, how your wife Deb, who didn't find out about it until much later that night, and then the fact that that your team won, you were happy, thrilled.
Yeah, well, it was, and Deb was, she was very scared when that happened, and because she didn't hear anything for at least an hour and a half until the trainer called her. But and for me, I thought at the time I knew it was serious, but I thought I was going to regain the hand back. I didn't know it was going to be as bad as it was, but but you think about that. I mean, it's a team game, and you want to win, and you want to have personal success, but you put so much into it collectively that it's all about having success as a group, and that all ships rise on high tide, and you'll have your individual success if the team has success. And so that's it's kind of the approach. You think about it from a business standpoint. You think about it for whatever company you work for, or we were talking about Michigan State. You talk about it at school. Those are all things where you're part of something that's bigger than yourself.
Don, is there with all due respect to physicians, doctors back in those days, which not that long ago, 25 years ago, because it was January 21st, I believe, 1995, that the fight occurred and the injury occurred, coinciding with it. If you advance with the way medicine is now, would that injury have been able to be surgically repaired to the point where it may not have affected you the way it did back then?
Yeah, I think they're able to do stuff with and save the nerve. I had the artery. I lost the artery, and the tendons the 9 tendons that were cut, they were able to stitch them back together again. They're shorter, but they're put back together. The nerve damage, caused a huge difference because I lost all the muscular control in my hand. And that's the thing. And then without that, you have weakness and you don't have the ability to move your fingers and your hand the way it's supposed to work. And like you said, with the advancements with surgical equipment and surgical instruments, and the minute, nano ability that they have as far as being able to connect all those nerves, back together again. Yeah, it probably would be different, but again, it's woulda, coulda, shoulda, and you can't go through life thinking about only what if, because then you end up having a life full of regret, and that's no way to live.
Not many guys get hurt in fights. I mean, it's documented, and a lot of people are against fighting. The NHL, of course, has scaled way back on it. It's not like it used to be. But did it change your opinion at that time on fighting? You were one of those rare guys that actually wound up pretty seriously injured due to a scrap.
No, I still believe I still believe it now. Not that I'm against the way the sport's played now. I think it's great hockey. It's great to watch. Great skill level. If the speed, everything about it is fun and exciting. Maybe it doesn't have as much of the aggressiveness or the physical play that it once did, but I know they got to try and make it as safe as they possibly can. But I always believed, that the fighting was a way, and you've probably heard this, Bob, before, as far as it kind of polices the game itself. So it took away a lot of the high stick possible injuries because guys, knew that they had to keep their stick down. And if they didn't, someone was going to come after them, so I think it really limited a lot of the eye injuries and a lot of the head injuries that would have occurred if, guys would just get reckless, with their sticks or, come and hit up high in the head area, with an elbow or whatever else. Back then, in the 80s and 90s, they didn't do that because they know that, the Hammer was going to come after them, or, the Grim Reaper, Stu Grimson was going to come after, or Bob Probert was going to come after them if anybody touched, Stevie Eiserman, or, and not just the superstars. It was just everybody, and I think there was just that kind of respect that they had for the game.
Absolutely. Well, Donnie, people look back at your career and you'll always be remembered as a highly skilled defenseman, a big point producer, Michigan State, a national champion, a captain and a all-star in Rochester in the American Hockey League 2 years in a row to the Calder Cup finals. Didn't come up with the Calder Cup, but hey, pretty good run there. Obviously the year here in Grand Rapids. But I think overriding all of that, your skill and your numbers, et cetera, your statistics, I think you're most proud of the fact that, you wore that C in a lot of places you went and, referred to as one of the best leaders in the game of hockey.
Well, Bob, you're too kind, first of all. But I would like to think, as if you have a legacy or, when you leave a sport or you leave someplace, if you want to be remembered as somebody, it's great having great stats and to have some of that, trophies on the mantle. But I think, the big thing are the intangibles, and you want people to realize that, you gave your best, and that you always tried to make others, perform at their best, and that you were helpful, and you were, the kind of teammate that could be counted on, and that you realize that again, that idea of you're being part of something that's bigger than yourself, and you're genuinely gracious about the opportunity that you've been given. And, we've been given great opportunities, and I've been given I was given a great opportunity to play at Michigan State University. I was given a great opportunity to play in Detroit, when I was growing up with the various teams and the sponsors, Mike Illich, Little Caesars being one of them, and the great coaches, that I've had over the years. So I just think about how lucky that I was to have all those things. And from all that, I get this career that I've enjoyed working with people at Kendall Electric, who are, again, another great organization.
Oh, yeah.
Just so blessed to be able to be involved with quality people.
Well, we don't have time to tell the story about, how you wound up at Kendall, but just the fact that you got traded to Milwaukee, I guess we'll just leave it at that, was the reason you wound up at Kendall. So there you have it. Part of your journey too, Donnie, drafted by Buffalo, and then of course Anaheim. I don't know if you saw the reverse retro jerseys that came out in the National Hockey League yesterday, but Anaheim, the Ducks, we've got a photo that we'll put up. You won't see it yourself right now, but one of the most hideous jerseys I think I've ever seen in hockey. That gigantic duck on the front of that jersey. But that's what they came up with for Anaheim in this reverse retro jersey.
My wife, I think she or my son saw that because they texted me about it. I haven't had a chance to go to the website and look it up, but they made a comment about that, going, when did they ever have these colors or this design? Do you know anything? I'm like, I don't know what I didn't know what they're talking about now. And you're the third person who said something to me about it. So I'm definitely going to have to look at that.
Yeah, they're not pretty. Let's just put it that way. They're down in the bottom part of the rankings, I think, at least based on some of the opinions I've seen. But anyway, Don, thanks so much. And thank you, too, for staying in Grand Rapids. I know there's so many people blessed with your presence, people that became enamored with the Griffins, obviously, and still are. But that first year was a special one, made special by people like yourself. And I think this community owes a debt of gratitude to you for that year of service as a Griffin, but the fact that you stayed here now for 20-plus years with Deb and your family is an awesome testament to how great West Michigan and specifically our community is.
Yeah, well, it really is. And I tell you what, Bob, I'm looking forward to hopefully we have hockey here this winter, and we were talking about that. I got to give my contact there at the Griffin office, Pete, a call, and
yes.
We usually buy 100 tickets for Kendall Electric, and we try and take some customers out, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again, and because that's a great time, a great way to spend an evening in some camaraderie with friends and family at a Griffin game.
Great to know you're still around. Enjoyed having you on the radio a few times. We'll have to do that again this coming season as well.
Yeah.
Now you have a little more time in your hands.
Maybe we'll see each other on a 5K or 10K or something like that again.
No, the 5B. I'm running in the 5B. That's 5 blocks. That's the extent of my exercise. So, Donnie, thanks a ton. Great to see you.
All right, Bob. Thanks again.